This lesson's all about the web that you know it as of now, the web that was before you, and the web that is coming. We're going to discuss a little bit of the history of the internet and the World Wide Web, talk about Web 1.0, the current Web 2.0, and talk about just a little bit of the Web 3.0. Today, 2014, there are a number of computer science related degrees that you could seek. Back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, there weren't. But now you have new college degrees such as gaming, game design, web engineering, even social media. So the internet has changed a number of ways of how we see the internet and the direction of how the web controls our everyday lives. Ignorance is the most violent thing in society. Pretty good quote, basically addressing you can't avoid certain concepts that are happening right now. For example, I'm not a big social networking individual. I do have Facebook, Twitter, but I have a hard time seeing the relevance in those. But I'm changing my ways. Global changes in communication. We're going to address what is the web and what is Web 2.0. All of it, whether it's Web 1.0 or Web 2.0, you're talking about collaboration, social interaction, personalization, active communication. For the most part, you are a producer of information and just not a consumer of information. And Web 1.0 is basically a consumption of information. That's how it was structured in the beginning. Today, you, regardless of your age, if you're using the internet at a very high level, you're collaborating at a very high level. The creation of information through just basic network communications or network settings is what's driving the internet and driving Web 2.0. What will that look like tomorrow? No one knows. The semantic web, which is what some are calling Web 3.0, will take a little bit of the Web 1.0, a little bit of the Web 2.0, and then try to mold it and blend it into something that is more dynamic than what you see today. Facebook is changing how we use a number of tools online. They're trying to become the content deliverers, the network providers, and they're doing a good job. One thing that is interesting right now with Facebook is that out of 1.2 billion Facebook users, 200,000 to 300,000 never log on to a computer to use Facebook. They consistently use it on their phone. So mobile technology is changing the way that the internet actually influences our lives day in and day out. So what's the web? 1989, Sir Tim Berners-Lee and CERN CIRF created HTML. They didn't create the internet. The internet has been around since the 1950s. But what Tim Berners-Lee did is he created a language, a scripting language, to allow websites to communicate with each other, to allow browsers to display information on a website. The web is nothing but an interconnected series of hardware that's controlled and managed by software. There is a difference between the internet and the World Wide Web. Some people will use both terms as the one and the same, but in reality, the World Wide Web sits on top of the internet. If you see a website that has an address, a URL, http:// and then the domain name, that's a site that's sitting on the internet alone, but is accessible through the web. Some of the first browsers the first browser was Mosaic, and then that morphed into Netscape. Now, Back in 1992, there weren't that many websites out there. There were, in 1992, 1993, 50 HTTP servers. January 2010, there were 250 million websites. And that number's probably even gotten closer to 300 to 400 million today. Because anybody can create a website. And websites are generated and created based on interest on the net, connectivity on the net, and someone has something to say. This is a little bit of a diagram of the next generation of networks that are to happen. Right now, we are in a Web 3.0 period. For the next 10 to 15 years, that's what you'll see. You'll see more websites that are interconnected. But the bigger question is, what's after Web 3.0? Obviously Web 4.0, but what kind of tools will that be? When it's 2030, how old will you be, and what will you be doing to utilize the web? A little bit of an ecosystem within the internet. ICANN, the fourth line down, domain names. What's interesting with ICANN is that ICANN is located in Boston, Massachusetts. And ICANN is the main generator of domain names. Gap.com, ESPN.com. Some countries are upset with ICANN because they won't create or allow certain domain names to be used because of language issues. So some countries are considering on spinning off and creating their own set of webs. But we'll see exactly what happens. If this was the internet by the end of 2010, well over 2 billion users. It's a nice little picture. Talks about MySpace. Currently, Facebook, if it was a country, I think it's the second or third largest country at 1.2 billion users, which speaks volumes to how important the internet is to us globally, just not us as Americans, but everyone around the world. Map of social media. The difference between Web.1 and Web.2 is that in Web.1, you basically stored information online to be accessible. Web.2 can easily be summed in, you create information. YouTube is a great example of that. YouTube is a server a server or servers that basically does not create content. You, as a user, is what creates content. In a very short lifespan, YouTube has turned into one of the most visited websites in the world. And what's interesting, those that own it, Google owns it now, but primarily just work on servers and the hardware side of it. They don't work on the creative side of it simply because you, the user of YouTube, creates that content. And that's what drives everyone back to YouTube, the content. Look at some of the characteristics of Web 2.0. Harnessing collective intelligence really is a dynamic concept because basically Web 2.0 is saying to us as user, we're smart, we're intelligent, and it wants to use that intelligence to help drive and propel the active use and engagement of websites. Some Web 2.0 tools. We'll talk about Web 2.0 and some of the tools that you currently have available to you. I know a lot of you love Twitter, but how are you using Twitter? Are you using Twitter to help educate yourself, to help push yourself forward? If you're not, then I would say you're using Twitter in a bad way. The good way of Twitter is try to learn something. Some professor, some instructor, some researcher is displaying information, tweets that are valuable to you as information. See if you can locate a Twitter account, a handle that can educate you outside of, and more so than entertain you. That's it.